Given that in the UK, action was taken as soon as possible to introduce testing and safety measures for blood and blood products as these became available.
The first mischance to save haemophiliacs from hepatitis came under a Labour government in the mid-70s. David, now Lord Owen, was then the Health Secretary. He was aware of the danger from imported American blood, so he tried to make Britain self-sufficient in Factor VIII, made from healthy blood from volunteer British donors, but failed.
I thought we were aiming for blood self-sufficiency. Parliament was never told that that programme was effectively starved of money, blocked, and they gave up self-sufficiency. So that is the way we start in a democracy. How was it possible that a parliament was told of a decision and it was then changed without them ever being told of it? That is meant to be something that no civil servant should ever agree to, and no minister should ever agree to.
The second mischance came under a Conservative government. In March 1982, warnings started to circulate in the Health Department about a new virus that had infected 400 haemophiliacs in the US, what became known as HIV/AIDS.
Half of the Factor VIII bought from commercial companies is imported from the USA, where drug addicts attempted to give blood simply for the money.
A senior health official warned that the department might have to block that tainted blood being imported by
revoking licences of certain manufacturers.
But nothing was done and the chance was missed. In May 1983, the focus shifts to Britain. The Lancet Medical Journal reports that a haemophiliac in his 20s has contracted a life-threatening disease, AIDS, from infected blood products. The reaction is immediate. The story hit the newspapers and the Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher was questioned in the House about why the government had ignored warnings about contaminated blood products from America.
Will the Prime Minister rectify that deplorable and disgraceful mistake by immediately authorising the necessary expenditure within the National Health Service to make Britain independent in its blood supplies?
Within a week, the government's chief advisor on public health surveillance, Dr Nicola Blackwood, wrote to the Department of Health to tell them unequivocally that he has come to the conclusion that the risk from AIDS meant that
all blood products made from blood donated in the USA after 1978 should be withdrawn from use.
His letter went to the Committee on Safety of Medicines, but this was to be the third mischance. The experts at that meeting decided not to stop imports of American Factor VIII. As a result, haemophiliacs continue to be exposed to HIV infection. If the Department of Health had acted on Dr Galbraith's warnings, hundreds of people could have been spared from HIV infection.
As well as the introduction of health and heated products.
The continuing failure to use a simple heat treatment when it had been shown that it was beneficial, and that the decision not to was, I would think, largely taken on commercial grounds, that you could still sell the product and you didn't have to spend however many $100,000 it would have cost at the time to introduce a simple heat treatment. Pasteurisation has been a very well-known procedure throughout pharmaceutical industry, and it could have been introduced, and it's a tragedy that it wasn't as soon as it could have been.
And also considering that the government has published all documents associated with this event from the period 1970 to 1985.
But the truth is a pretty important something to hold on to. And that is where, at every stage, the truth has been there and people have evaded it. And that must carry a penalty with it. When I started to go back to my documents, I went back and asked to go and see my own documents in my private office. After some time, I was given the answer they couldn't find it, first of all, and then I was told that they'd all been scrapped. There's a 30-year rule over government documents. You don't own them until after 30 years, but you can go back and look at them. But I have become convinced that there has been a cleaning up of documents. And I think that at that stage, there was a decision to clean up all the files and stop some of the incriminating evidence.